Good evening, televiewers. We are welcome to Prime Hour on My Media Prime, and a edition that is going to be looking at our living together, national unity and integration, asking the question as to why, as to how to overcome challenges, standing on our way to implementing the policies of national unity and integration in Cameroon. It has been a sing-song for policymakers in Cameroon for decades now. Every time a policy maker makes a speech or addresses a community or an institution, mention is always made of the need for Cameroon to work so hard for the implementation of ideals and policies of national unity and integration. But as the days, years, and decades go by, we rather see efforts, activities that are working against this ideal of national unity. We hear of persons being addressed as anti-Sardina, as anti-Tontina, and a host of others. Why have we come to where we are today? We are discussing this with panelists who are seated in the house with us to look and address this issue. Dr. Nick Ngwanyam is in the house with us. He is a politician, an educationist, and also a core civil society advocate. We are glad to have you with us today, Dr. Nick.
Oh, thank you very much, and good evening to our listeners. I've been absent from the media for a long time now, and because this topic is very endearing, I thought I should come and share with you, and we share our notes and compare our notes, because it's very important that we seek for peace by all means. So yes, I was listening to your introduction, and the bottom line is that we talk a lot but we do nothing.
Okay, we talk a lot and do nothing. Apostle Ambe, Valentine, our permanent consultant, is in the house with us. Good evening, Apostle. We got to have you.
Good evening, Mr. Leo. Good evening, Cameroonians. Good evening, my co-panelists. Welcome to today's edition. We are talking about unity and integration in our nation, Cameroon, which has been a very serious challenge lately with the kind of slogans that people throw and the slangs they throw in the society with respect to the different tribes and regions. We are here to build unity.
Stephen Mwambo is also with us. He's coming all the way from Boya, Southwest Regional Capital. We're glad to have you.
Thank you, Mr. Leo. Thank you for the opportunity to be here. I want to say good evening to the people of Boya, and good evening to fellow panelists, Dr. Nick and Apostle Ambe. I'm glad to be amongst you. Thank you.
Okay, Dr. Nick Ngwanyam, I have a question that is going to be addressed to all of you three. I wish we look at it. National unity and integration has been more on sloganeering in Cameroon, with little real impact on the ground. Why?
You see, the way things work in life, you know, I have my phone on the table. If I'm thinking about the phone and I say I have to pick up that phone, then I must accompany it by an action where I effectively pick up the phone. But if I'm thinking in my mind, I have to pick up the phone and I talk about it for 100 years, it's not going to happen. That's just the thing. So the question we should be asking is, why do we talk so much and we do nothing? It's in our DNA, and that's where the problem is. So you have people who show up and talk from morning till evening, have seminars, you know, talk about everything, you know, insult each other, but the work never gets done. That is the problem. We have to move from talking to doing. You see, some of those slogans, for instance, emergence in 2035, is just a slogan. Nobody is doing anything about it. Go and gather all the ministers and all those directors, ask them what is 2035. They will not tell you. What are they doing to get there? They will not tell you. As long as they are sitting in that chair, it's okay. Okay? And then 2035 will come, they will not be there to answer questions. But right now, let's go hold them by their testes. Each of them write a composition on what is 2035 and how are we getting there and what have you done for us to get there. You wouldn't get an answer. That is the problem. Slogans.
Okay, slogans. Apostle Ambe, Valentine, since I was young, I always heard about national unity, national integration. National unity, so much has been talked about this, but when we observe what is happening in Cameroon, we see the people du Grand Nord. Anytime there is something that touches on them, they don't fight about Cameroon, but le peuple du Grand Nord. In the center southeast, you hear of les Ekans. In the west region, you hear about les Bamileke, and then you see we have les Sawa, les Bamenda. And why do we, instead of benefiting from this doctrine that has been on for decades, we rather are seeing persons identifying more with their regions and tribes?
Mr. Leo, there are three kinds of leadership. There's a shepherd that goes ahead and the sheep follow from behind. There's another shepherd that rules from within the sheep. There's another shepherd that goes around the sheep to go ahead and then they rule from behind. This thing has to do with leadership.
Okay.
The Cameroon government has done so much by giving us slogans about national unity. They even went as far as establishing laws against hate speech. But we are yet to find the very first person who has been judged, sentenced, imprisoned, or punished for carrying out hate speech in the country. The government authorities are first and foremost the ones who are engineering the hate speech. Where we find ourselves today, we go to schools, carry out campaigns, speak against hate speech. We have a commission for bilingualism and multiculturalism that also preaches against hate speech. But you see, the lectures are not enough until we engage practical principles on ground. The forces of law and order are supposed to be there to execute judgment on those who violate the protocols of the Constitution and the laws of the society. But you see every day words come out that's supposed to impeach people, implicate people, but those words pass like streams of water. And this is where we fail, because we went as far as establishing laws that can bind us together, because this division is based on the fact that this man does not speak well about this person, this one does not speak well about this person. So the differences in language, the differences in communication, and the insult against each other is the reason why we are divided. It is planted within our hearts in Cameroon to believe that Cameroon is a combination of several tribes, and that mindset of that we belong to a tribe has not culminated to a nation. We are not yet a nation. We are a nation in quotes, but in our actual reality, the way we live as tribes. That is the reason why, if you check the scriptures, God split a whole nation into 12 tribes. The people of Gad saw those of Naphtali as strangers. Naphtali saw Zebulun as strangers. Zebulun saw Joseph as strangers. But they came from the same womb. And this is exactly what is happening in Cameroon. All this division is a fact that we don't speak the same language, we don't come from the same region, we don't have the same, we're not from the same tribe. Because of this, it is what politicians take now as advantage to fan aglow their political drive and their interests. And if I can tell you that if we have a problem in this country in terms of division, political personalities, or let me say politicians, have contributed a lot, because everybody gives a picture to his own people that the other person is a stranger. So because I'm living in a political office, I pretend to love my own people, protect their interests at the expense of the unity of the other people. So the unity that is being preached is a mere slogan, like Dominic said. It's just pronunciations. People have not been given the responsibility, or the law, force of law and order have not carried out their responsibility by disciplining those who cause the division, and that's why we find ourselves where we are today.
Okay. Stephen Mwambo, sloganeering and very little impacts have been felt on our living together, irrespective of the fact that a special commission was recently created to cater for our diversity. How do we explain this?
Mr. Kum Leonard, the history of Africa, the history of Cameroon, beginning from 1884, is one that the country Cameroon, Africa, and Cameroon, of course, went through the same process, because Cameroon is in Africa, whereby the continent was divided like a piece of cake amongst Europeans. And of course, that was because they wanted to reduce fight reduce fight amongst themselves, and share Africa as a piece of cake. And in that division, they did not take into consideration the fact that maybe persons from the coastal regions, like a place like Cameroon, were not the same persons like those from the north, like those from the west. They bundled us under one canopy. And when they went out after a lot of nations in the continent started advocating for independence, we had persons, of course Africans and Cameroonians, who took over the mantle that the colonial masters had presented or had left. And that is, of course, dividing us to rule over us. The issue of slogans in Cameroon is because people want to keep the common man. They want to keep the common man to see the next person as an enemy. Cameroonians don't have an issue with living together. We have never had that issue. If you go down our streets there, you will meet people, they are struggling. If they have one problem, it's what to eat, a roof under which they can hide their heads, and of course, something to wear, and the rest comes later. Everybody faces the challenges that we have with poor roads. Everybody faces the challenges that we have with no water, with no electricity. And because people want to remain and occupy positions without delivering, they will look for slogans, they will look for issues that will stir up divide and stir up hate and stir up funny feelings among Cameroonians, when that is not actually the case. Politicians over the years have used our divisions, our cultural diversity, of course, our language, as a tool to maintain power. And it's the same thing that is reproducing over the years. We don't have an issue, like I just told you, about living together. But they are creating an issue out of it because there are people who are positioning themselves to take over certain positions as far as leadership in this country is concerned. There are people who are spying certain positions. There are people who are seeing persons sitting in certain positions where they want to sit, and they want to topple them by all possible means, by raising issues of tribe, issues of region, so that they can sit in those positions. And in so doing, they bring in the masses by confusing us with slogans about living together. Cameroonians are divided into two classes. Like Hubert Munonjana said, Professor Hubert Munonjana said, the class of those who have and those who don't have. There's persons struggling to find what they can eat, how they can send their children to school, and those who have gathered everything for themselves, and they want to choke us and bring us confusion into our society. When that does not obtain, Cameroonians are united, but our politicians want to bring divide, as they have always done, because of political positions and nothing else.
Okay, we want to be together, but now there is this notion of they call it regional balance. The effort was to see every region identified at the cake cutting table. How has that worked in favor of our unity in diversity?
Well, regional balance is a great idea, but it was poorly implemented. Okay. Just like anything else, you know, a knife has got two edges. One of the edges will be sharp, and another would be blunt, or two might be sharp. So it doesn't matter what we are talking about. There's a good part to it and a bad part to it. And again, with a knife, we have said a knife is a good thing. You use it for your cooking, but you can use that knife to kill. So the regional balance in itself is not a bad thing, but like Stephen was saying, like Apostle was saying, we take something that is good and we wear it in the wrong clothes, and then we create problems unnecessarily. So the original intention will be good, but the people who brought in the original intention, they have either died or they have retired or something. Then a class of very greedy people comes over, and then they mess up something that was good. That's the biggest problem. The fact that, you know, we cannot be trusted, we are not honest, we don't speak the truth, we don't look for the common good in things, and we are only thinking about ourselves, me, I, and myself, my family, and so on. So it is this me, I, and myself thing that is really killing us. All right, that's the biggest problem. Me, I, and myself.
Yeah, but regional balance is there. I don't know, on paper, do we actually see it being implemented?
No,
when you look at I don't know.
It's not being implemented. Let me show you a good example. I don't want to call names, okay? But let's take let me show, you know, science doesn't lie. So let's carry out some experiments where we take the map of Cameroon. Let's take a map of Cameroon with the regions, where you can clearly see the regions and the divisions, and then let's photocopy many of those maps and have blank sheets. All right. Then let's go and take Enam for the last 30 years and look at everybody who has gone through Enam. If the name is Ngwanyam, you say, where's Ngwanyam from? He is from Ambe in the northwest. You go and mark a tick. Where is Kum from? He is from whom? We put that district for 30 years and then put the map up and look at it. Then you will see that there's no regional balance. Let's do that for the police, for the gendarmes, for the customs, for the teachers, yes, for the medical doctors, for the ministers, for everything. Then, of course, it becomes very clear that regional balance has failed. But regional balance in itself did not fail because it's a bad idea. It's just because some people have bad intentions. But you know, the last time I asked, I said, why is it so? Somebody gave me a very good reason. That some people in some areas, they eat a lot of eggs when they are young, so they're more intelligent.
Yeah, but would things have been different if regional balance were aptly implemented? Because we are talking about this issue of sloganeering. We're seeing that there is regional balance, there is national unity and integration. Would things have been different if this regional balance issue were implemented?
Mr. Leo, this thing is a notion.
Okay.
And once people have a notion concerning something, it affects their entire being.
Okay.
If there is a notion that there is a regional balance, even somebody who is not benefiting from the regional balance will be comfortable. It's a notion. We are dealing with humans and they are logical. Once they know that there's a regional balance, we have 20 ministers in the country, 2 from Grand North, 2 from North, 2 from Damawa, 2 from East, 2 from West, 2 from North, 2 from Southwest. You will realize that even if you are not a minister or your member is not appointed as a minister, psychologically or by notion, you are comfortable.
Yes, that there is.
You understand? It's balance, a notion. Yes. It's a notion. But now when they write something like an exam examination, 50 people pass, 40 came from South. Automatically, somebody who would never write the exam, he was not prepared to go to Enam. He develops bitterness because he feels. You understand? Somebody who is not even qualified to write the exam, I can tell you that they are holding gun in bushes right now, who complain that they take police from Yaoundé in police school. They take teachers from Yaoundé. They don't have certificate to go to police school. They don't have degree to go to teacher school. They are just angry because the division of responsibilities was not right. It was not proper. So I think that we are playing with the notion of people. That's one thing. Secondly, if I talk about the regional balance, the divide is so bad that it's not even at the level of a region. It goes to the level of tribe, and villages, and clans and families. If a man is appointed in the country, he has somebody in his family that the person is not yet settled. He doesn't think of the intelligent young man in that community whom he can give opportunity. As a matter of fact, you must pay allegiance to them. Their position in that office is not for the benefit of that community, but first and foremost to those who succumb to them. Now, if such attitude is demonstrated, emotion has taken reason. Logic is no longer in place. What you have is emotion. When emotion overrides reason, it is obvious that we are bound to make mistakes. So it's a notion. Now we are having 10 regions. So lucky enough, we don't even have 11 regions in this country. It's an odd number. We have even number. So things are supposed to be distributed evenly. If that's the right grammar, we distribute it evenly. 10 regions in the country. Let's say 16 people come from French Cameroon, 4. It's going to be 4. 4 from English. The gap between 16 and 4 is very large. They require that the 2 English will be very comfortable because they have given their own quota, which is the right quota. 16 against 4 looks like cheating, but it will not sound cheating because 2 came from each region. You understand?
Yeah.
That's where the problem is. So if we don't deal with poor psychology, people, I'm telling you that people who are carrying gun angry that they have taken their nation, who had no nation. They have taken jobs and given to it's like South Africans who are complaining that Zimbabweans come to the country and take the work, which they are taking medical doctor work. The person who is angry is pushing the truck. He doesn't have a degree in medicine. But he says that South Africans have lost their job to Zimbabweans because Zimbabweans have invaded their country. How does a medical doctor from Zimbabwe take the job of a truck pusher in South Africa? Is notion. It's an impression. So we must wipe that impression. And that's the reason why when meetings are held in our country, we should mind the kind of words we use. Simple words can give a people an impression that they are not welcome. And the worst thing that can ever happen to people is when they feel they are not welcome within their own country. So all this has to do with poor psychology. We may even go on ground and find out that there is a certain level of regional balance in certain areas. But you see, that one is swallowed because a single act was done that wiped out the impression that there's a regional balance in particular areas. That's the truth. Okay. I have been when a man from Southwest was appointed head of Ewane family who will not make noise. It's not mouth. You go there, if there are 50 people in family, 40 are coming from Southwest. So the defense don't have right to complain that time. They have right. It tells you that every time a man is appointed a responsibility, he selects his community. So the marginalization is not just a one-way thing. It's sometimes when people are given responsibility, they choose to favor their community before start thinking of somebody else.
Okay, you said people were appointed in Bambili?
Somebody was appointed in Bambili as the head once. The recruitment of teachers in Bambili came more
ENS,
from his community.
Okay.
Yeah, ENS.
For students.
Yes.
Okay, I get it now. Yes, but we are looking at this notion of regional balance because the effort is to see every region, every division feel represented where decision making is taking place, so that when they are sharing a national cake, each person should at least safeguard the interests of their community, region. But let's look at the level of the National Assembly. We say once an MP, the MP is the MP for the nation. Have we seen MPs from the far north walk crying foul on an issue that is taking place in the littoral region? Have we seen MPs from the littoral region taking special interest in what is happening in the southwest or northwest, for example? Have we seen the MPs of the west regions, because they're MPs for the nation, doing so for those of the south region?
Mr. Leo, I will begin by commenting about the regional balance issue. You know, when this Minfopa signed this ministerial decree in 1992, I think, and of course the Prime Minister signed another decree with regards to regional balance in 2002 to throw more light on how it should go. The intention was good. The intention was good because if we were to go by the way things are developing, there are some people in certain areas who will not benefit because of maybe education, because of distance, and that will be bad for the cohesion in the nation. And of course, regional balance was brought up. Now you have each region, and the regional balance is supposed to be in public exams and appointment into public offices, which means that the head of state, first of all, and his ministers and his entourage have a great role to play as far as regional balance is concerned. For instance, we have in the regional balance quotas, we have the extreme north that has 18% in the quota. We have the north that has 7%, the west region which has 13%, littoral 12, sorry, I think center region has 12, south 4% in terms of quotas, south 5%, east 4, and then the southwest you have 8 and the northwest 12. But if you look at it critically over the years, whether you take INGS, whether you take Senages, whether you take Enam, EMIA, ERIC, and police, custom, every single one of those exams, you notice that the balance is not respected. And these are things that were signed from instruction from the presidency, and of course it's a prime ministerial decree, which means that every ministry that has a responsibility of organizing exams has the responsibility to check the result when the lists have been presented to see whether those quotas has been respected. But it's not the case. And you ask why. You see that it's a construct of the state, of the ruling party, because the head of state and those around him have the responsibility to see that the law of the land is respected, because we are talking about law here. And the intention of it was what? To make some persons not feel discriminated upon. We have had regions who advocate for regional balance during exams. We have Laka, for instance, from the West region. When they write public exams, they take the list and examine. If their percentage, which is 13%, is not there, they advocate for it. We have the Grand North. They advocate their 18% will be there. And it's a fact, if you want to check those documents, whenever those public exams are being written, you see those. You have the Ekang and the Beti and Bulu. They don't even need to advocate, because most often they have all the names. But you have now the Sawas, the Northwest and Southwest, whereby we are not organized to fight for those positions. But you know, those who come and fight for those quotas, they are our politicians, because they want to fight now in the area of appointment. But whereas if we had come in to fight from those public exams that has to affect a lot of our children, a lot of our brothers, a lot of our siblings, you will see that the multiplier effect will be felt fast, and the pressure on the government too. Because if for instance, parliamentarians, elites of the Southwest and Northwest gather that a quota in the police, recently launched police recruitment, was not respected for the Northwest and Southwest, the people will obviously follow behind, because of course, it's not those parliamentarians or those elites who will be sitting in for those exams. Though some of their children can be sitting, but they'll have villagers who wrote, and persons will be willing to stand with them on that. They will not advocate for that. Where would they come now to advocate? In the issue of appointment, and that has to do with the prerogative of the head of state. Because that's also one aspect where regional balance has to be respected. Appointments. But what happens? Our appointments don't respect the quotas that are listed. Our appointments don't respect them in any way. You take, for instance, we have 10 governors. Can you just check where those 10 governors are coming from? Is it not easy, reasonable to choose a governor from every region? There are just 10 of them. We have 58 SDOs. Can you check and see where they are coming from? We could divide them maybe 4 or 5 per region, 6 per region, or we follow at least the quota that the law stipulates. But it's not respected. And of course, that's why you cannot see our senators, who are senators of the nation, of course. You cannot see our MPs stand to defend the nation. No, because how do they defend the nation when quotas have been stipulated? They have to defend now at the area of appointment. If, for instance, they want to create a bureau, they want to name a minister, that's where they want to defend. They want to lobby. The defending not that they'll come openly and talk and ask for support. When the laws are respected, just like persons will feel that they are taking educational backward zones, like the extreme north, like the east, even certain quarters in Yaoundé, like Quartier Briqueterie. We are still talking of areas with very low level of education 62 years after independence. What happens that we take all our major schools, they are in Yaoundé. What for? How do you encourage persons who are in the north, persons who are in the south, in the east, farther in the northwest, to get involved and put their children to go through school? Because putting some of those big institutions around those areas is also a way of encouraging people to study. It's also a way to make nationals not to think that going to serve in those areas is punishment. So it's a state mechanism to see that we remain in confusion and we don't observe that the laws are respected.
Yeah, but we can say it's a state mechanism because the states, there is a clear policy by the state for this to happen. But let's look at the budgeting that is allocated to the respective regions and divisions. Do we have a feeling that each region feels aptly represented in the budgeting? For example, take the littoral region and Douala, to be precise, which produces a lot, contributes a lot to the national economy. But when you are to compare what is sent as a public investment budget to the littoral region, and you discover that there is a division that has a budget that may even double what comes to the entire littoral.
There's a lot of problems that we are facing in the nation, and we need to have a cool head when looking at them. And when you look at some things that are going wrong, the causes are multifactorial. Yeah, you cannot just put your finger just on one thing. There are a couple of things that account for that. But even before I get lost into this, let me go back again to this, just to complete what you were saying. The real problem is really that of human nature. It's human nature where we are dishonest and we don't love each other, because if we loved each other, we would not even be having this discussion. So when you see all these disparities, is a sign of a lack of love. And before I even go on again, I'm sure what I'm going to say, Apostle Ambe would understand very well. If you look at the population of Cameroon, we are 27 million of us, right? And Stephen, you know that the public service, there are just about 300,000. Just about 300. Let's just be generous. Let's say 300 to 350,000. That is about it. It's the maximum. So it doesn't matter the number of concours you have or something. You cannot push that number, otherwise the whole thing will just collapse. Because right now it's not even efficient. All right. So we are saying that we have a population of 27 million people, and you have only 350,000 working for the state. Okay. Now, so the question we should ask is, where are the 26 million working? Where are the 26 million working? Because when we are looking at all these national things, and it's like we are talking the division of the national cake, we are just looking at manpower, the use of manpower. We have not even looked at the budget. Leo had just asked about the budget, but so we have manpower, budget, and opportunities. Okay. Now, but the crazy thing about the manpower is that manpower that works on the budget and that distributes the opportunities. So when you create that error in the manpower, then that error, repeats itself. So exactly what we were saying about the distribution of manpower in the whole public service, you will see that error carried forward into the budget and the opportunities. So it just runs across. Yeah, it runs across. So it's very, very unfortunate. Now back to something else. So let's talk about the 26 million people. Where are they working? And that's where we should be putting our energies. In a country, it doesn't matter which, take America, take Israel, the human population is divided into two. Those that work for the state as civil servants, and then those that are working in the private sector. And the good thing about the private sector, that it is the private sector that creates the wealth. It is the private sector that creates the jobs. It's the private sector that carries out the development. It's not the civil service. When you are looking for those kind of things in a third world country like Cameroon, is because we are not schooled in the things, and we think that is the civil service that does it. But the civil service can say, build a bridge over here. All right, that's one thing. But who actually does the job is the private sector, and it's the private sector that generates the money. So we have a huge problem, and this problem is weighing too much on us, because when you ask yourself the question, how does the private sector do it? The private sector is where you have the skills, the engineers that do these things. But when you have a school system that does not train those engineers, that does not train people in skills, that does not train people in leadership, financial intelligence, and all these things, then everybody, and then we also mistakenly give the impression that when you are working as a civil servant, you are a boss. I'm not even talking of leader. You are a boss. You are the grand frère. You know, you can choose whom to kill and whom to bury. Yeah, you have arrived. You know, it's a very foolish mentality. So we need to begin to train our children to, you know, and take out that kind of mindset, because sometimes you will see a child who has an opportunity to do a job in the private sector, let's say for 300,000 francs, but they would prefer to take a job in the civil service for 150,000 francs. The question you should be asking, why do they do that? There is something in that private sector that's very intoxicating. And then, of course, you know that through corruption, they earn more money too. So there's lots of factors that come in there, and they just mess up everybody. So if we are looking for a way out in this thing, we should empower the private sector. That is the key to this, solving this, in as much as we'll be looking at ways of means of recalibrating and sharing posts and budgets properly and opportunities properly, because like I said, those things are not shared properly. And in sharing, let's say, like the budget, just a quick one, when sharing out the budget, it's relative to the population of the area, then it's relative to the problems that are supposed to be solved in that area, and it's relative to the problems of national interest. Like, for instance, you would ask, why are so much budgets going into one area for building dams? That's where the rivers are, and that's where the dams are. So a lot of money will go into that. But we should have an even distribution of money all over the national territory to build the highways, to build all these kinds of things, all those goods, all those goods that are common goods, so to speak. So we have all these disparities. But again, when you have people in leadership positions who are not thinking critically, who are not thinking of the common good, who are greedy and think more of themselves, you will never get anything right.
Okay, you will never get anything right. I want us to stay with MPs who are MPs for the nation. And do they give a sense that somebody in Nolinga can sleep knowing that the MP from the West region can fight for them? Someone who is in the Southwest region can actually sleep and feel that if I have a problem, the MPs from the far north can. Because if not, why do they say that an MP is an MP for the nation? Is it because they make laws that govern everybody?
The issue we should be asking here is, what is the job description of an MP?
To make laws.
For the nation.
Yes.
The MP is the MP for the nation. Mm-hmm. But you must understand that it's not the nation that votes the MP. Mm-hmm. It's a constituency.
Yes,
so his primary focus is the people that brought him to power. Mm-hmm. Even though his job description is national, mm-hmm. but his primary focus is those who brought him to power, because since politics is a game of interest, you will always want to work and favor those who can bring you into power a second time. Mm. Tomorrow, the entire Cameroon will not vote him if he does not focus towards the people who brought him to power. If he wants to deal with the level of the whole nation, mm-hmm. that is being an MP in Western region, and you are bothered about what happens in Lom in Jerem, or something that happens in Yokaduma, they will tell you that we are here. We have not yet settled our own scores. You are focusing towards Yokaduma. We are the ones that voted you. So it has carved the minds of the MPs to reason within the circumference of where they come from, even though their job description is to handle national issues. Mm-hmm. That is the reason why, to some extent, I will not blame the MPs, because they will want to protect their interests from where they are coming from. They will visit where they are coming from. If they have a little gesture to do, they will do. If they have to fight, they will fight on behalf of those who are coming from their constituency. That's the more reason why I think the MP are spared in that area. Mm-hmm. Now, secondly, the reason why we see a lot of regional imbalance is because the entire nation is focused on concours and matricle numbers.
Okay.
In a community where people are independently prosperous, nobody pays attention to these concours and all these things. But you see, the way the nation has been designed, in a mixed economic and command system of economy, everyone is not focusing towards the business and entrepreneurship sector. They are focusing towards the concourse. That's the reason why the lapses in that area are too exposed. You go to a capitalist system of government like Nigeria, whether you write concours or don't write concours, people are not bothered about the public service. Because the private sector, anybody, Tom, Dick, and Harry, whether you went to school or not, you can engage into business and become very successful. So I think the problem here is not even the regional balance. The problem is where the nation has been called to focus upon. All Cameroonians that leave school, they are looking at EMIA, ERIC, INGS, ENS, and the rest. So the moment the concours are out, people are not taking. It's too sound. It's too exposed. People easily discover that they have cheated here. But you can go to an economy where concours can even come out and go. Nobody even knows if concours is existing. Because people are independently buoyant financially that they don't pay attention. When I was growing up, they used to tell us that civil service job in this country was for failures. Until we came to realize that energy had been drawn from the private sector. We had companies in those days like Nanga. We had companies like Nobra under Nanga. We had big companies in Cameroon that people grew up with the mentality of opening independent companies. Until the system of government shrink the private sector to the extent where if you don't lean on them, even as a businessman, you can't succeed. So the policies on ground is even what has punctured the private sector. You find out that almost every parliamentarian or senator is a business guru in the country. Why? They must be there to protect their interests and protect their business. It is the system of government in operation that has exposed us to be thinking that 15 police were taken this year in police concours. Who is paying attention to police concours? Who pay attention to ENAM? Those were schools that had no value in those days. But this time around, a man's signature and his stamp is stronger than any business shop in Marché Central. So why won't I struggle to become chef there? That when I'm going out for one movement, when I come back, it's 500K. When I go with escort, I come back. The next thing I have 5 plots of land. So everyone now shifted now from where money is being generated, which is the private sector, and began focusing because you can plan that business to 20 million and somebody just leave a name one day and come and put a seal on it. So why should I waste my time building a business when somebody will just leave school and come and seal it? So that was when now the focus on the private sector was drifted towards the civil service. That is why the consciousness of regional imbalance has swept everywhere. There was a possibility for 10 persons to be taken from Yaoundé and none taken from Bamenda, and nobody quarrels. Because almost everybody in Bamenda is either into agriculture, IT, engineering, technology, education. So when they begin to look at what they are making from their private sector, they begin to ask, say, you want my go right now, Konkufuka earn 200,000. When he has a business that pays him 2.5 million every month, that is where we are. So the problem is the policies and the system of government in operation. If they want people to take their eyes off that thing, open a free economy and allow others to invest personally. Okay. You take a word from this.
Why it is a policy, you outlined that it is a policy. Why has it been difficult to be implemented in Cameroon so far?
Like I will always say, a state is an abstract entity. It's human being that give it substance. There is one thing with signing laws. Now we spoke here, I think Apostle spoke as well as Dr. Nick in the beginning about in 2019, I think 24th of December 2019, the penal code was being revised with regards to hate speech. And we are in 2023. There is nobody who has been prosecuted for hate speech, though we have heard it in many occasions. Now you ask yourself, why is it difficult to implement that law? It's not difficult. It's because people who even voted the laws don't have any intention to implement the laws, except when it will have to do with persons they consider as enemies. That's they keep the laws, they let the laws be there, they vote laws against terrorism and the like. The day that your political party will come out and march when a GO did not give you order, they can use that law and squeeze you. And when you want to talk, they will give you evidence that it's a law of the land. But you have another individual who will go against that law, nothing will be said about it, because those persons are in the league of the big boys, the league of the big people. So it's not about the laws. Cameroon has a lot of them, but they are not being implemented, and they cannot be implemented because they have been put there to take certain persons out of the game. We have, Apostle was talking about business persons. There are a lot of them who are involved into business, and they saw that it was difficult to excel in the private sector. It was so difficult, challenging to excel because of probably taxes. You have a mayor, you have a GO, you have an SGO, anybody who can harass and disturb your business, a custom officer, anyhow. So the magic is to join the ruling party, is to get a political position and use that. You spoke about the uneven distribution even of the budget. I give you a simple example. Now, our toll gates, for instance, generate as of last year, the record of last year, 2022, 6.1 billion. We have toll gate like the toll gate in Edea, which raises is the biggest toll gate that we have more money from. The one in Komelu, we have the one in Bankomo, Bumyebe and Moyuka. Can you go to those areas and see one thing that has been done as a result of monies that were generated because of toll gate? If you go to some of those toll gates, in fact, that's where that's the worst part of the road. When you reach there, it's as if they intentionally spoil that part. No, but they are raising 200 million. Let's say heavy duty cars are coming there. Yes, you know that heavy duty cars will use this place. It's like you want to be an airport. You know that a Boeing 707 will be coming there, and then you use 1 bag of cement and mix with 4 wheelbarrows of sand. That's already an error from the beginning. So you know the cars that will come there. But this is money. Take Moyuka, Banga Moyuka. It raises more than 150 million. What has been done there? You have these companies, you have like the Sonaras, for instance. What has been done with monies from Sonara in Limbe? Aluka Minedea, what has been done? So we just have some laws that were signed, like I told you, by persons who will use it when a situation arises where their position are being threatened. So that's the problem we have in Cameroon, and that is a problem that threatens national unity.
Dr. Nick Ngwanyam, we want a Cameroon that is very united, integrated, but also recognizing the peculiarities of regions and peoples. Do you have the impression that when policy makers take decisions in Yaoundé, they consider that all of the actions that they are taking actually recognizes these differences and also puts in place strategies that make them feel belonging to this nation? And also your sense of patriotism of Cameroonians, that is, how proud are Cameroonians of their nation?
Well, thank you very much. I think I've heard a couple of times, many times actually, that Cameroon has some of the best laws. So our problem is not laws. We have laws. But just like Stephen was saying, we have them, then we lock them up in the cupboard. All right? And then nobody, I said nobody respects the law. From the small person to the big person. You only call on the law when you want a favor or to protect yourself, or when you want to nail someone else. That's where you go and dust that law and use it. Or you twist that law to get what you want. You know, and someone on social media called our attention to something. If you want to know the mindset of a people, watch what they do on common ground, all of them. And the common ground in Cameroon is the road. Watch how Cameroonians use the road. Okay? Especially the red lights. Go to the red lights or the road junction and see how they are all using the roads. Because once we come to the road, the truck pusher is on the road, the pedestrian is on the road, the president is on the road, and then everybody is on the road, the big truck, the small, everybody. But you would see that we don't respect the traffic rules. So as long as people don't respect traffic regulations, everything is an indicator that everybody in that community or in that country is sick. And we are really sick. You know, the red lights will be on, that you will see responsible people driving through, you will see motorcycles driving through, and if, let's say, a motorcycle fellow goes through that red light and you knock him, all the other motorcycle guys will come on you, irrespective. They won't want to know whether the guy beat the red lights or not. So we have this problem of irresponsibility. I think that's our greatest problem. Our problem is irresponsibility. If we don't say anything else, let's say that the problem of Cameroonians is irresponsibility. I don't know how else to say it. And then we tell a lot of lies. It's just so unfortunate. So irresponsible, and we tell a lot of lies.
Tell a lot of lies?
Yeah, so many. We lie. It's in our DNA, it's our nature. We tell a lot of lies. Trust the Cameroonian to your own peril. Honest.
So our sense of patriotism is not there?
Oh yeah, forget about patriotism. What is patriotism? You know, I was so taken aback when a minister was asked a question about patriotism. I won't want to call his name, and he said, and to show that he was patriotic, he said he sang the national anthem. Singing the national anthem is not, it doesn't mean that's not patriotism. Patriotism means that you have genuine love for your country, you can die for your country, you can sacrifice anything for your country, and you do this not because somebody is going, you respect the laws of the country, you respect everybody in that country, you respect the vegetation, you respect the roads, everything about that country, whether someone is watching you or not, you know, it's something that comes from within. You know, when we're talking about the love for the country, it's like love for your father, love for your wife, love for your mother. It's not something that somebody has to push you to. It's not something that you do so that you please somebody. It's something that you do because it's a way of life. We are not patriotic at all. If we were patriotic, we would not be doing what we are doing to the state. You know, people in authority are given money to build this kind of thing for the whole nation, but they take 3/4 of the money home. That, you don't call that patriotism? No. No. You cannot be so corrupt. You are given money to build the roads, you take it home, and now the buses are killing people all over, knocking themselves all over, potholes everywhere, and so on, and you call that patriotism? Go to many government offices. The place is very dirty. There's grass all over the whole place. Go to the ministries, for instance. Go to the ministries. Look around the ministries. See how dirty it is around the ministries. See the grass that is growing around there. So all those ministers that they're waiting for Mr. Paul Biya to come and cut the grass. That's real irresponsibility. And if you want to see how irresponsible people are, look for the small things.
Okay. Let's look at the way we celebrate appointments, because we are talking about national unity and integration. We want Cameroonians to serve as Cameroonians and not necessarily as somebody from Betua. But yeah, when someone is appointed in Cameroon, it's common knowledge for the people of that community to tell the President of the Republic that we want to thank you because you have found
appointed
our brother, and then we celebrate from the village perspective, and after that they say there is homecoming. Isn't it telling that you are appointed to serve
the community?
Yes, your community. And when they say the President is appointing you because he's doing a favor to that community, should we not be appointed because you are expected as a minister, as a director, to serve people in Yokaduma, Abomba, and wherever?
Mr. Liu, let us not go too far. Let's not go too far. The Prime Ministerial office in this country is the office designed for Anglophones. Anglophones. That's what I'm emphasizing. Okay. Anglophones. But it will be very shocking that when somebody is appointed from the Southwest as Prime Minister, people who go to welcome him are not even people from Southwest most of the times, are people from the community where he's coming from. But that office is representing Anglophones. We're supposed to have all the tribes and villages assemble to celebrate that somebody from the Anglophone extract has been appointed into an Anglophone ordained office. But sometimes
even from the region where he is coming from.
See, from the northwest, where Chidiacho, you mean that the people from
Santa?
Yes, consider that it is their time.
It is their time. It is not an Anglophone stuff. But you see, that man is appointed on behalf of Anglophones. But now it becomes now on behalf of the people of the community where he came from. Signs, one, they are the ones who go and dance and welcome him. I was a witness when Prime Minister Ngwanyam was appointed. Most of the persons that gathered were playing the from Oku. I mean, such a huge responsibility for two regions. It is a village. That means we are waiting the day a woman will be appointed. It becomes a woman thing. The way a performer will be appointed, it becomes a performer thing. So you are talking about appointment in this country. It is purely back to the place of tribalism. Now, how does the president, who does not have a huge population in this country, survive? Because if we are talking about people from community celebrating their own, the president is from the Beti clan. The Beti are also a minority. Let's not forget that we keep talking the minority. The president himself is from a minority clan. How did he succeed in coordinating the 10 regions of the country to celebrate his arrival in office? That's where we have to start. All these people went there because they know that's the absolute power and that's the final power. And they are going there not because they are happy that he's appointed, but they are looking for an opportunity for the cake to come to their community. So it is easier for everybody to assemble and support him that has the final say. But sometimes it is difficult for people to accept a man that comes from the same region with them. Even in the particular regions, the other regions of this country, somebody is appointed Minister of Forestry from the East. It is his village men that assemble to sing praises and clap and celebrate him that he has been appointed. So when he sits in that office, the people who are in his mind are the ones who celebrated him the day he was appointed. I think it has to start with us celebrating people, even if we don't come from their community. That's the beginning.
That is, we should see an appointed minister as a
blessing to the nation. Yes, our own. It ends there. This man has been appointed as Minister of Agriculture. Oh, the agricultural sector in this country will take another phase. Let all the tribes and the different regions celebrate, rise up and celebrate him. With that impression, if you knock at the door, because he may pick some faces on that day who are not coming from his place. Who are you? I'm so and so. Let him come in. These are the people that when I was appointed, they didn't see it, because we are the ones who have forced these appointees to believe that their appointment is to their tribes and their communities, because we do not celebrate them. We should not expect to harvest where we did not sow. We shouldn't. It even gets worse sometimes. Some poor appointed, it is their family that does. I remember when son was appointed here, it ended in the father's compound. It ended in their compound. How do you expect son to see a Bamenda child or somebody from north and easily appoint when the day he was appointed, nobody from that place came to celebrate with him? We force these guys to believe that their appointment is to their communities or probably to their tribes. I think we should also change our approach in the way we celebrate appointments in the country. Let's not throw the ball on one side and then keep building defense on our own side. It's not acceptable.
Can I just throw in a word before you pass the microphone?
Okay.
Yeah, I think already from what Apostle Ambe is saying, it's already lopsided. There's something wrong in that. You know, we should all grow. That's the young, the old, and the big and the small. We should rise above that and think more of common good all the time. As long as we keep saying, because Ambe is saying that we should go celebrate so that the man can appoint us. I think that's already a wrong
No, that's not what he's saying.
Okay, that's not what you are saying.
He's saying that because of this attitude,
yes,
the man will have the tendency.
Yeah, but if the man has that tendency, is wrong. That means he's not mature. He's not the man is not mature, because when you are mature, you are not supposed to be looking at those that came. You have to rise above that and be a leader.
Why do we expect people to behave better than us always?
No. What I'm saying is that. What I'm saying is, we as a people all have to rise above that.
Man, that's what I'm talking here.
Yes, anyway.
We have to break that cycle.
Yes, okay, that's good.
We're talking about national unity and integration. Stephen Mwambo, I don't know whether you have observed, like some persons who have written, they say that the appointment at so many levels, divisional and regional levels, actually does not favor regional integration and unity, because if you were to go to the West region, take MIFI, for example, you find all the principals are from MIFI division, the divisional delegates are from there, and the top officials are from there. If you were to go to Mezam, you look at the principals, majority are from Mezam division. You go to Menchum and go to Manu, the same. I don't know, how does that favor our national unity and integration? Why would persons take the schools in Vurie, majority of the principals are from Douala. Take the divisional delegates, they're from Douala, the Sawa people. Why not take these guys, send them to work in Adamawa, to get the guys of Adamawa to feel that is, Cameroonians should be ready to accept the other without prejudice?
Mr. Leo, there is no problem in Cameroon that you want to analyze without beginning your diagnosis from leadership.
Yes, but this system, the existing system, does it foster our unity and integration?
It doesn't. And the regime in power, or Mr. Biya and the party, is using that over the decades. Now, you mentioned Vurie, you mentioned in Fako, for instance, almost all the principals are Bakwarians. You go to Mezam, you go to any corner of the nation, is the same thing that obtains. Where did it start from? That's the first question that you ask. If you go, for instance, in Yaoundé, if you go to the south, will you meet a stranger, somebody from the littoral, is principal in the south? Now, we had when the University of Marwa, even recently in the east, in Betua, when it was created, then no, this said is their school. They said they are indigenes, whether they are qualified or not, they will be taken first, and it was respected. Because the system has always moved in the light of smashing the same laws that were voted in. How do you go to a university and then people impose that it is their own? And it was respected like that. When you go to the center, you meet principal. Now, I experienced something because that's the first area where I started questioning this issue you're talking about. I was in a day one time when Minister Ngale Bibe was made Minister of Secondary Education. Before him was Bapes. Bapes is a Bakoko. When he was there, he put every principal in all the schools in the day were Bakoko. When Ngale Bibe came, he swept off all of them and put in Bapes was Bassa, so he put in Bassa. When Ngale Bibe came, since he's Bakoko, he swept all the Bassas and put, and it's the same thing that obtains in every one of our divisions. The problem is at where it is coming from. Is it not something that they are copying from somewhere? Because if we have people who are putting in, it's everywhere. So you cannot go and start blaming down there. You cannot blame down there. You start it from the head. That's where you can solve the problem. So our appointments have always been tribalized. All appointments in this nation have been tribalized. Apostle Ambe was talking about the South. The South is a minority. How has Mr. Biya managed to be in power? He said to François Hollande that on ne dut pas au pouvoir qui veut, mais qui peut. And by saying keeper, it means it's intelligence, it's wisdom. You know what to do. And he has brought in persons from different factions and giving them the impression, because he is very loyal as far as his friends are concerned. As far as his friends are concerned, he is loyal with them. He will keep them. Some of them will be in positions until they go past the age of retirement, and even after retirement he will appoint some even ex-governors as senators. They will continue the trend. So people are just copying what they are seeing from up. So it's from top and it boils down to the man down there. And of course, when you go now to the street, you meet persons who have their businesses and they want to employ. If the principal of a school is somebody from that place, why will I have my business? And then even if you are competent, I'll put you. If I'm from Chang, I'll go and bring my brothers in the village there and put them, even if they will steal from me. But people will always say, if you listen, they say, me thief, it go back now village, it come back now family. That it's better for the person to steal. It's okay, but people are so allegiant to their tribe, to their origin, and it comes from up. So we are only talking the consequences of something that did not start with us.
Dr. Nick, have you taken time to look at the pattern of appointments of divisional, regional delegates across the line, and the principals, subdivisional delegates? Do you actually understand and make sense out of the way these things are done, putting in context the fact that Cameroon is working towards bringing the nation together and integrating everybody?
Oh, thank you very much. Like I said, when you look at everything, you have to look at different facets and aspects of it. Now, you see, let's take the workforce in the nation. I think if you're looking at the workforce in the civil service, teachers constitute most of the heaviest workforce, teachers. Then I'm trying to give one of the explanations which would explain why, if you come to the littoral, you find most of the people in the littoral here. If you go to the northwest, you'll find northwesterners there. Because technically, a couple of years before, many years before, long before you were born, I would say that there were very few civil servants, and there was this concept of transfer, you know, because people were not, we didn't have many hands, and you were moving somebody, you know, who has the capacity of a headmaster, of a principal from here to Marwa. You understand? First it goes with a lot of problems, transportation, moving his family, and all that. So it's a huge cost. Yes, it's a huge cost. But now, over the years, so many people have been trained, and they are from that area. So people tend to settle in their comfort zones, and therefore, if you now go to the if you go to Adamawa, for instance, then you will see that most of the children there who went, you know, and studied and are teachers or something, 80% of them are there. And so if you're looking for a teacher, it's most a principal is most likely using the Parotas rule, that it's from the 80% that you're going to get the 1 or 2 that will be principals. So it's one of those managerial things. And you realize that if you didn't do that and you started moving bulks of teachers all over the whole place, you finish all your budget just in that.
Yeah, so, but if we are in a nation that seeks to achieve something, there is a price to pay. How does the current way of doing things help in? Are we not where we are 60 years after because of what you just said?
No, I mean,
should we not have a will? Because we are talking about appointments of a few persons.
Yeah, no.
We're talking about here we are principals, divisional and regional delegates.
Okay, you are saying at least those ones can be moved across, yes, to break that chain. Yes. Yeah, it's okay. But like you said, if we were to start, you know, if we didn't have, if everybody had the impression that divisional officers and senior divisional officers, you know, commandants, gendarmerie, police, and so on, were being mixed like that, and they were coming from everywhere, the problem would not be arising. So, like I said, it is that example that is being told. You understand what I'm saying? As long as you can, I think it's the senior divisional officers, they are spread all over, but coming from one.
We're talking about divisional delegates,
yeah, whatever. It's the same pattern. It's the same pattern, but we are saying that until we get to a point, number one, where we respect merit, where where we are intentional about it and we are conscious about it. You know, like let's say you are the minister of education now. You sit and you consciously do it. It will work. You understand? I mean, there will be money for it. It will work. Where you say, okay, the principal of the GBHS Marwa, I'm going to send this guy from Douala. I mean, nothing will stop you, and he will go there and he will do his job. And if you did that, the whole nation, everybody will feel it, and that's what will make you great. I mean, like when we talked today, Namjoya was great because he was that kind of a person.
Please let me just add that I had a discussion with somebody, an elderly person, about this issue of principals, and I want to comment that one of the issues he told me is that with the administration, the government actually, with teachers, I mean principals and regional delegates, there is what they examine, you know, most often before you're a principal, you are of a certain age. And by that time, longevity and of course your career, there is the tendency not to be very agile, so persons have to settle around where they come from. So as a young teacher, you could be sent to Garoua, you could be sent to the Northwest, but once you're about going to the age of retirement, they start bringing you close to your home. And in doing so, if for instance you are 50 and the teacher is supposed to stop work at 60, by the time that you're already 50, 45, they see that no,
what about the case of,
so you calm down.
What about principals?
That's the principal. That's what I'm talking. They calm down when they are of a certain age.
We have young principals.
Yeah, but there are few of them. I'm saying what somebody in the administration told me, and he said at that age they start bringing you close to your home. Maybe if you didn't have a home, if you didn't have time because you've been up and down, you can start building, thinking of settling, and of course that's the reason why most principals are in principals of those areas. But I think that's just a beautiful way of presenting the lie. It's a beautiful way. It makes sense though, but it's a beautiful way of presenting it. But the thing is, it has to do with competence, and of course in a nation where we are so divided because of our culture, language, our tribe, we should be thinking about regional integration as a whole from those little areas. Persons can go, you can go and work. There are persons who are one of my teacher when I was in the primary school, he was from Manu, and he retired in Buea. He built his family is still there. So that's also integration. Yeah. That's also integration. If I move here to the north and I work there, I be there for 10, 15, 20 years, I may find it a comfort zone for me. So why they should think about the integration in that light, not like building I call it a beautiful way of lying.
Okay. Apostle Ambe Valentine, we are talking also about a situation where we find community tensions because some persons consider themselves minority and are always threatened, they feel always threatened to be swallowed up by dominant people. But there is a text, the Constitution actually spells out the rights of minorities in Cameroon. Is it the fact that we are ignorant of it, or the government is not doing enough to let persons understand that in whatever we do, we should understand that the minorities are their rights and everything should be aptly preserved?
There are minority rights in our constitution in Cameroon, but is it respected?
That is the question.
That is the issue. Is it respected? It's not respected. As a matter of fact, there are a lot of things in this country to be looked upon than minority rights. It's like you are trying to tell us that we are still to get President Paul Biya declares assets, which is part of the constitution, to go and be checking which minority has no right in Tokomere.
Yeah, but the issue of minority is what is also creating a very big tension. Okay.
It could be part of the constitution, but it's not giving focus.
Okay.
It's as simple as ABC. And I want to talk about the minority stuff. That minority stuff is actually not a disadvantage, because power is something that is available for everybody. For everybody. There are protocols to receive power. There are protocols to seize power. There are protocols to take power. You don't need to be in the majority to rule. That is the truth. This inferiority complex, minority is not inferiority. these two words should be clearly defined. That you are a minor does not mean you are inferior. You go to Cote d'Ivoire, Alassane Dramane Ouattara is from the minority. You go to Rwanda, Paul Kagame is from the minority. You go to Gambia, Adama Barrow is from the minority. So that tells you that it is possible to lead as a minor. So the Tigres have ruled Ethiopia for many years, but Abe Ahmed came from the Oromo clan, is the one who is the president right now. And if we keep going, the story will not end. There are many minors ruling in Africa. One of the things you must understand is that you must know how to play the game. Politics is a game of interest. Somebody from that minority clan has the capacity to rise to the position that the person you think is a majority in that community has risen to. Because in a country like ours, you don't need majority to win vote, to win elections. You need to play to the schemes, the whims and the caprices and the games of the system in order to climb to power. And that's how Africa is all over. People don't climb to power in Africa based on majority or minority. People climb to power in Africa based on succumbing to certain protocols. So what you should be doing is to struggle to see how you can be able to seize power if you feel like being marginalized or oppressed in that area. You go to Kenya, there are three major tribes in Kenya. You have the Gikuyus, you have the Kalenjins, and you have the Luos. We have had presidents from Kalenjin and Gikuyu. We have had Daniel Arap Moi, we have Jomo Kenyatta, we have Mwai Kibaki, we have Uhuru Kenyatta. We have not had anybody from the Luos. That's where P.O. Lumumba comes from. They are the minority. This minority is not because they don't have intelligent people, but because they have a complex that because of the minority, they are inferior. Minority is not inferiority. You have the right from that minority to know how to press the right button to climb to the place of power and be able to wield so much influence. So the minority stuff in Cameroon is not even something that you should be thinking that the law will one day come to your favor. You are like somebody caught in between the deep and the blue sea. Look for a means to swim your way out of that challenge. Swim your way out of it. Don't think that there is a law. Cameroon has so many laws that the laws are never remembered. To even come or remembering the minority law, who has that time for that? There are people in that minority who are eating part of the national cake, and they will not even support those who want to enforce that law. Is it not shocking that minority, whom we consider in Cameroon as the Anglophones, there are people from the Anglo community who don't even believe that Anglophones are marginalized? That tells you that what? When they pick a few in the minority, as long as they're in the place of power, they will dismantle the rest who are making noise. So you will end up being a noisemaker saying that they are not respecting the law. That same community you say they are not defending them, they are poor inside that same community who are eating from the national cake. So how do you want to explain? You live in a jungle where everybody has to fight and fight your way to the top. So this minority stuff is something that I don't think that somebody should go and hang on. That there are laws that guide minorities in our community. We should do everything possible to protect them. That's a law that is Mr. Lo, you know laws in this country. There are laws that you read, you will die, you will never, you leave this earth, you will not be mentioned.
There is a law that was voted recently in the wake of the Anglophone crisis that actually punishes hate language, hate speech. Where are we with it? Has anything changed, Stephen Mwambo? And also the creation of the Commission for the Promotion of Bilingualism and Multiculturalism.
Well, Mr. Leo, the law, is it that I was talking about it some few minutes ago, voted, it was an amendment even of the penal code, whereby it punishes hate speech and contempt. It punishes hate speech with a fine and imprisonment term. But after the Commission of Bilingualism and Multiculturalism made a study and saw that there was a rise in hate speech in the country, they made this proposition for this law to be voted. But the Commission does not have the power to prosecute. It's like CONAC. They will investigate you, they find out that you have embezzled monies, yet CONAC does not have the power to prosecute you. So how does we are just I just see like we are just turning around the same circle. We are just turning around the same circle because we are talking about laws here. We are talking about laws not being respected. We are talking about laws not being implemented. Apostle Ambe was talking about some of the laws that are in this nation. In fact, if you want to start checking the laws, you go mad. And one thing is that most of them are so beautifully crafted, but it's not implemented. So how do you go and punish persons when the judicial system itself is not independent? Because it begins with the judicial system. Maybe that's one aspect that we are even taking so lightly. It begins with the judicial system. The judicial system should be such that they can identify certain wrongs and then prosecute persons. But if nobody is willing to do it, except when you climb on toes, then how do we even talk about the law that was voted on the 24th of December 2019? So we are just, I mean, everything is just, it's just so funny. It's just so funny.
Everything is just so funny. Practical policies that would foster our unity and integration. What should be done?
Oh, thank you very much. So we have the living together, and then the second part is the eating together. Okay. Your question is, what do we do so that we can all eat together? Okay. That's the bottom line. And most of the problems that have been that have been going around the country, there's really no issue of living together. The real issue is eating together. And like you were saying, one of those problems, Jana or somebody, he said there are 2 tribes in Cameroon. Forget about this thing of 350 tribes. That's not the problem. There are 2 tribes in Cameroon, the halves and the halves-not. And when you go to the halves, you have the Anglophones, you have Francophones, you have people from the north who have and then trample on everyone else. All right, who doesn't have? And the sad part is we have very rich people up there with a lot of power and a lot of money that is probably gotten, you know, I don't know how they get it. Yeah, some of the money is good, some of the money is bad. Then you have these poor people who are struggling to edge out a living, and then the middle class is absent. We don't have a middle class. So we have to change the dynamics of our nation so that we begin to build a middle class. When you begin to see that middle class expanding, then you know that eating together is a reality. So it's about changing our economics. So something has gone wrong. Something has gone wrong, and not everybody is having enough to eat. So we can reframe that question and say, what exactly should we do so that money can enter into the pockets of youths? All right, what should we do so that money? I didn't say should enter into the youths of this region or that region. No, all youths, not my youth, not my kids, not your kids, all kids. So, if we can answer that question, and we can only answer that question by stepping back and finding out why money has not been entering their pockets in the first place. So where have the bottlenecks been? Then we try to correct that and make sure that we create systems which allow for children to be able to create their own wealth. Is very important. Once we can do that, just like Apostle was saying, in those West Cameroon days, I mean, nobody cared about the civil service because people were able to help themselves. Go to Nigeria, on some food, the fonction publique, on some food. You see, when you go to Germany, it's an industrialist thing. People, it's about business, it's about industry. Go to Japan, Israel, all these places, South Korea, it's about industry. You know, why would Dangote want to go and be writing a concours? To do all of it. So that is the problem. So we now find out, why is it that our youths cannot help themselves? Why is it that our population cannot help themselves? And we solve that problem. And, you know, let me remind us again, you know, His Eminent Christian Cardinal, to me of blessed memory, he taught me these 6 things. If you want to succeed, you must like work. You must like work that is well done. You must be honest. You must have self-discipline. You must pray. And then you must respect Mother Earth. So why does he start work, and like work that is well done? And you know, why did God create us? God created us, number 1, to love him and to worship him, to love each other. It's about love first. That's why God created us. That love and respect for him, worship for him, and each other. Then the second thing that God wants from us is work. work that is well done. But let's look just at that and find out, are we working in Cameroon? We deceive ourselves that we are working. People go to office at 10 o'clock, then they hang their coats at midday, and then go out to drink, and then they leave at 3 o'clock. They don't even go home, they go somewhere else. So in Cameroon, we are not working. And as long as you are not working and not doing the right thing, you are killing the economy. And then we said a moment ago that, everybody is focused on civil service jobs. There are only 350 of them. But it is the private sector that generates the wealth, and we are not teaching our children how to work in that private sector to generate the wealth. And this brings me to the point of emphasizing that our education has been wrong. We have been having the wrong education for 60 years. The white man gave us the kind of education where we are taught only to read and write, because he knew that we are rich in raw material, and he didn't want us to have the intelligence of using those raw materials. That's why we grow a lot of cocoa and we sell it raw beans. And you know that all the countries that sell cocoa as raw beans, they earn only 6% of the cocoa, of whatever comes out of the cocoa. Those that are transforming and selling are the ones that are making the money. You see, so that's our problem. We have to change our education, make sure that the children have skills, train our children in entrepreneurship, and give them that character training, those skills training, and make sure that we help them to open their industries, their factories, and so on, and forget about this concours thing. We should beat down that concours and bring it to the minimum, and that's what we should do. Beat down the concours, raise the private sector up, grow the middle class, grow the economy, and help our children to compete against the Chinese.
Now, what practically would you advise are steps that should be implemented in Cameroon, judging by what has happened this far, to get the nation better united and integrated?
Since we cannot divide the national cake evenly, we cannot, there is no possibility, because our emotions, tribalism, nepotism, greed to enter into it. Let's remove the attention of the nation towards civil service, into business, into entrepreneurship.
Okay.
Do you know that the value-added tax in Germany is 45%, Mr. Leo? You make a profit of 100,000, your tax is 45,000. But because of the turnover that businessmen make, they don't feel it. Do you know the value-added tax in Cameroon is 19.25? The little you are even able to make, because the private sector is not producing results. When they cut that 19.25, you are left with nothing. You realize that the heavier the tax in Germany, because the private sector has enough space. If somebody makes 300 million per month, and they say you are paying 45%, you will left with something substantial. But if you will make 100,000 a month, they cut 19.25, what will be your balance? So you realize that the private sector, which is supposed to be what was supposed to have given people a damn about the public, because all these appointment things, will you tell Elon Musk to be appointed? Elon Musk appointed, Dangote appointed, Steve Jobs appointed to do what? Donald Trump appointed to do what? Imagine if we have such personalities in this country, who will be looking for civil service. I'm telling you that when I was growing up, they used to tell us that those who want to work in the civil service are poor people. But today, civil service has become the diamond. In those days, you could enter Enam by just writing. These days, you will pay millions to enter Enam, enter Eric, enter Emia. People were even caught. I think in class 4 in primary school, people were arrested to become military people in this country. Class 4 in primary school, they will catch you by force. If they look you are physically built, you are. Mr. Lo, I don't know if you saw those things in those days. To be now caporal chef, you must find 1 million. What has transitioned between that period where people were arrested by force to go to police? My wife's father used to be a police. Before you graduate, before you go for retirement, they will tell you, bring your son to come and replace you. This time around, you may graduate as a commissioner and your son does not even have the possibility of passing a constable concours in police. What has magnified this civil service where we're arresting people for free? For free. We should go back to where we came from and ask why the civil service that was so much minimized has suddenly become the Alpha and Omega. That is what the problem is. We should go and find out that civil service where everybody spoke disdainfully about it has suddenly become now the King of Kings and the Lord of Lords. We should go and check the civil service that people were seen as poor people. Why has it become now the beginning and the end? From there, if we are able to find what went wrong in that area, then we can be able to resolve the problem of people forgot. Because what we mention regional balance, it has to do with concourse, it has to do with appointments, it has to do with budget. That's the regional balance. If a budget, if a state or a particular region in this country, the municipalities are producing money from businesses that pay taxes in that area, whether the state is giving 300 million or what the particular municipality generates from businessmen in that area will not even make them think worried or become bothered if at all what was given by the state. It's a child that has no money that bothered about the father's property. I repeat, it's a child that has no money that bothers about the father's property. I was growing up, my father died, left me a little house. I refused to stay in that because my dream was beyond that house. I began renting out of that house. It's a poor man that fights for property. So those who are still fighting for state budget, they have not grown. Because if they truly grow, what are you doing with state budget? What's your focus? It won't be your focus. So I think we should go back to the drawing board and check what caused us to start rushing after civil service that we insulted in those days. Nigeria is here. The value added tax for businessmen is 5%. 5. It used to be 15%. They dropped it to 5. Why? The amount of people doing business in Nigeria, if they pay that 5%, it is better than 20,000 people paying that 19.25 here. Because more people are doing business there. So 1 million people paying 5% is better than the 10,000 paying 19.25.
But then let's even, I'll give you extra 3 or 4 minutes. Let's look at the private sector. Let's say a thriving private sector and national unity and integration, because that is where the focus is. Rushing to the public service, I don't know whether it mixes with this what we are discussing, but let's look at the private sector. Those are thriving enterprises in Cameroon. Is there national unity and integration in it? Don't we also find that these guys only bring people from their villages to work in these companies? A good number of them, yeah. We're talking about national unity and
you can bring people from your village when it's on skill level. When it is expertise, you will not need village man. You can't bring a village man that cannot mix kashi beer.
Yes.
Yeah, but let's look at national unity, because is there a policy that promotes that within? I've listened to many guys from Douala here themselves who say, okay, you guys have created companies here in Douala, but our sons and daughters are not from. Can we also make it a policy so that if we actually feel and
no, it's not. When it comes to running a business, it is the entrepreneur who has the head. He's the one who takes the risk. He's the one who has gone to the bank and borrowed money, and he knows what exactly he has to do to earn money genuinely and pay and grow. It's not about emotions. Emotions. Any entrepreneur who does his business based on emotions will fail.
You fail.
It's not emotions.
No.
So the thing about it is this: like Apostle Ambe was saying, in that setup, there are some jobs. It's not just about everything. There's some administrative jobs. Then, if it's a factory or industry, there are technical jobs in there, and then there are people to clean the yard and so on. So he can gather all the people from his village to come and clean the yard. That's no big deal. But when it comes to refining that petroleum or doing something in there or putting the engines of the car, it has nothing to do with tribe. If you are talking of tribe at that time, it's a tribe of people who have those skills, which means he is going to look for the best behaved or well-groomed engineer out of engineers. And at that time, it's not about a bafoot engineer or no. And when you don't find it, you will leave Cameroon and go and bring him from India.
Yeah, but this is what you are saying is what ought to obtain. But going by what you observe out there, is that what is happening?
No. See, so let me just finish with this.
Yeah.
Whatever, this is it's just about principles. You know, if you would have the company here, there is no way you are going to take someone who doesn't have the skills to run a particular machine. It's impossible.
Yeah,
but about administrative jobs, about all that's a different ball game.
Dr. Nick,
but the private sector is about productivity.
Yeah, it's about productivity. Are you
Yeah.
saying that the efficiency is can be traced only from within a particular?
No.
There is a church in Cameroon that is recruiting. I had 10 persons from a particular area write to me. They wanted me to run a TV show because, according to them, this church does most of its recruitment from Dunga, Mantung, and Boyu division. Let me finish. But I refuse to run the show because, to me, I would rather contribute in finding more division.
No, let me just clear something.
If you maintain that it is based on competence, are you saying that other areas are not competent?
No, let's go back again to the drawing board, because there's something you are not understanding, and I don't want the people.
No, I'm simply asking a question.
We are in the private sector setting.
Yeah.
The civil service is a lost game. We are looking at the private sector. When you come to that private sector, there are many activities that are taking place in the private sector. The private sector, as it is in Cameroon now, is still very primitive. Did you hear me?
Okay.
Yes. So you are looking at the setting of the private sector in Cameroon, which is still very primitive.
But we are talking about the national unity in Cameroon.
Follow. Then you will know where the problem is. I said it. Watch my lips. I said our private sector in Cameroon is still very primitive. So what does it look like when the private sector is well developed? You will see a lot of industries and factories. Yes. And at that time, you are talking about of engineering and competencies like that. So our private sector now it still has to do with social stuff. So a church is not a church. So the people who are working in the church or singing in the church, there's nothing particular about it. Are you getting me? So if you take that kind of an example, a church, people selling in a supermarket, it doesn't go. We are talking a real thing that develops is about industry and factory. And when it comes to industry and factory, it's technology.
Yeah, but the majority of those working in industry.
Let me add what Nolinga said.
Yes.
A Ghanaian employed Ghanaians to run his factory. They stole, they mismanaged. People say that Africans open company and invite Indians to come and work. Character has a role to play. That Ghanaian business was going down. When he sacked all the Ghanaians and brought in Indians, the account was very, very perfect and the work was well done. People began saying that, why have you left your Ghanaian brothers to go and bring Indians to come and work in the company? The man said two things are in place here. One, character. Number two, competence. If those two things are not in your business, you're an entrepreneur who's investing, you know where to head to. A simple example.
But you're just endorsing my worry. Where we have so many companies in Cameroon here, because we are talking about private sector,
Is that not what
national unity. We have so many companies in Cameroon here, where when you go there, almost everybody you find there comes from.
That's what Dr. is saying, that we are in the primitive stage of entrepreneurship. You understand? But they are very smart businessmen. Look at your impact in Boya under High TV. Has brought you here. And what you are doing is excellent. People are celebrating it all over the world. But this man is not from your region. I hope you are guessing what I'm trying to say. The man has as a technocrat in entrepreneurship, he has pursued competence and character. He has not pursued tribalism. You can't tell me you are the only journalist in this Cameroon, or the other journalist from Bayangi land. So understand this. It's as simple.
Yes, but my question stands here. I want. How do we promote national unity integration, even in the private sector, away from justifying what he's saying? That is, you go for competence, yes, and not necessarily bringing your tribesmen to work in the company.
I think that what they are failing to to hit here is we are talking about Cameroon first of all.
Yes.
And when we started developing issues about the division in Cameroon, we raised the issue of business persons. We have them big ones.
Yes.
They're in their parliament. What are they doing there? Because if we don't start asking the question, why will somebody, a very successful person, a businessman who is doing well, decide to become a parliamentarian? If we don't ask those questions, they will not know the challenges the business persons are facing. Because let's not just talk and sweep everything under the carpet as it's going on well, you do business in Cameroon, you just prosper, you just make it big. No, that's a lie. If you get to the poor here, down here, to import stuff, I mean, if you go like, say, to Germany, where he's talking about, or the US, and buy maybe cars or some goodies and bring, if it's your first time doing that, you didn't have somebody to work with you, I mean, after that, you will not go in again. That they will squeeze you dry. The custom will squeeze you dry. The laws will squeeze you when they know that you are not informed. Because there is a clear intention to create monopoly in Cameroon. And that monopoly has to favor certain persons. And so how does the private sector strive? Maybe if you want to strive, then you should go to one farm in, like I was doing there in Boassa. You go and open your small poultry there. That nobody is seeing you. You keep your 300 fowl. If you decide to import and keep 25,000 chicken, you will have to toe the line as far as the government is concerned. Because you will now come and meet people who control the poor. And those people who control the poor, they have been put there by persons for certain interests. And they will tell you now that we do na. And you talk. I go to Ekok, to Manfred, to Ikom, Nigeria, and buy goods. My brother, if you see what the police and gendarme and custom will do to you, you will weep and you will not wish to do business in Cameroon. It has to take patriotic persons like us to continue. There are so many who have attempted doing business, especially out of the country. And that's why I was talking about the diaspora outside with Apostle Ambe. There is a serious challenge to bring in the diaspora in Cameroon to pump in monies, because they have attempted and the bottlenecks, they are just so horrible. So if we are talking about integration, national unity in Cameroon, as we have already said that there is a class of the haves and the haves not, then we have to begin with leadership. We have to begin with laws. Because you will not ask me in Cameroon to pay value added tax of 19.25% when I'm still struggling to establish a small business, and I move here, I go down to carry my goods, the driver will ask me to pay 10,000 for your head, then you will be asking you a bag to pay 10, and you ask that what was the need of the boot, and they'll tell you that gendarme and police are working with for road. And you go there, there is no law written that they should be taking those monies from you. But how do you escape them? Do you have to fly to escape them? Our roads are not the best. We have to transport goods. How do you do that? The cost of transportation becomes expensive. The laws are not good at all. So business cannot strive in Cameroon if you are not in the CPDM. Except you are doing, like I said, a small business that maybe you are selling your provision. Okay. And then, but if you want to become an importer, if you want to make, I mean, we saw.
Mwambo, there's no law that says that to thrive in the economic sector of Cameroon, you must be in the CPDM. Except you mean that?
Yes, there is no.
Are you saying that Dr. Nick is in the CPDM because he wants?
Yes. If Dr. Nick is not in the CPDM, that is cool. St. Louis will close. It will close down. I'm telling you, realities on the ground. Now let's just wait. There's
no law.
There is no written law. The unwritten law are more powerful than the written ones. We are few months from school reopening, right? In August, you will hear they will lock certain schools. They will sign a decree that they have locked like 300 schools. You see the ones that will open. After the decree was signed today, tomorrow they are open. You see the ones that will be locked. It's a carefully calculated plan. So we cannot talk about national unity when we don't distribute wealth. When justice does not prevail, we cannot talk about national unity. And we have to also point out a very important role, the role of education. I was asking myself yesterday, I said, we are talking about the 51st National Unity Day come Saturday. And I examined a ministry like the Ministry of Women Empowerment and the Family. Do you know the role the family can play in building national unity? I mean, we have children, all of us sit here. But you see a ministry like that, you don't even hear, I don't even know their function in this country, whereby maybe they would have been organizing seminars and certain issue about building, because the nation starts from the family. That's where it begins. Okay. But you hear practically nothing. I also was trying to teach my son, and I look at his book, and I saw we're doing, I think, history, who discovered River Niger, Mongo Park. And sincerely speaking, if you told me that these things still exist in our books, I will not believe that. They said Christopher Columbus discovered America, and I say, what are we teaching the children? We are talking about national unity. We are talking about emergence. He is talking about entrepreneurship. How do you start the process? You are talking to children, you are teaching them lies at a very early age, that somebody discovered a place where people had lived for 500 years before he came. So you see that the priorities of the state, of the system of education does not even take us towards emergence, neither does it take us towards national unity. So we should begin with the education and the leadership. Okay. Somebody must not be of the CPDM before they can do a thriving business. I mean, where are we heading to?
Mwambo. Yes, but let's look at national unity and integration from the political perspective, where persons who are of the opposition think that they are not brought to the management of the national issues because they are not appointed. But it is also understandable that political parties present their manifestos and are given the opportunity to serve through political parties. But also the justice system that is supposed to tell the common man that we are here for you. So whether you are rich or poor, you are served justice like any other person. Do we see the justice system helping to bridge that gap, to making Cameroonians to understand that whether you are rich or poor, you have equal access?
Thank you very much. You've asked me two questions, one that has to do with politics and political parties, and that they feel excluded from eating the national cake. Political parties, they are not called participating in the national thing. And then you're also asking about the justice. Let me leave the justice in the cooler and deal with the politics, okay? If you permit me. And this is the mindset. Many people we have 350 political parties in Cameroon, okay, and that's just another bullshit. The question is, you have a political party number 1, and you have political party number 52. So you are creating political party number 52, and what you are saying is that the first 55 parties, nobody dealt with your worries that you could join. And we now go to the extent that we have 350. So they're just a bunch of liars and blackmailers. You understand what I'm saying? You hear about presidential majority, G20. Also, they're all just blackmailers. And the thing is, people, I'm sure you know the politics of NGOs. You know, NGOs are created just for the sake of jobs. The primary reason why most NGOs are created is not to solve the problem in the community. People will look at where the money is coming from, create an NGO, and say, we love these people very much. We love growing shrimps. and then target the guy who's giving money for growing shrimps. So you have, but when you come on the ground, there are no shrimps. So people are looking for something to eat. That's the bottom line. So now most of these political, they're liars. They're only looking for food. Okay? So, and then they would say, oh, you are not doing very well. You are not doing very well. Actually, oh, you see this hate speech we are talking about. This hate speech that we are talking about is political parties that are engineering the hate speech. All they want is you are table, move away so we'll come. But ask them how the problem will be solved. They will not give you an answer. They're all liars. They're looking for jobs. Wait, now let me tell you another thing. If we step back a little bit, you know, how does a country function? How does a community function? How does anything at all function? How does this house, this my media prime function? There are three pillars on which every system functions: the politics or the policies that rule the system. 2, the economics of the system. How do you make money and spend it? And number 3, the development. And when we are talking about development, we are talking about infrastructure and then human capacity. And we have noticed that all these things are controlled by a sound education. So if you look at Cameroonians, from the way we have gone to school and trained and been, you know, most Cameroonians will go to university and secondary school and university and we read subjects. You know, Ambe read history, I read this one. Everybody is the subject. But we cannot think logically to solve problems, because to solve a problem you have to think about the problem, craft a solution, and then use your hands to solve the problem. We have not been trained in that area. So you have a lot of people who are out there who are unable to think themselves through problems. And entrepreneurship is, when you're talking about an entrepreneurship or an entrepreneur is someone who is gifted enough to be able to see problems in the community, then craft solutions to those problems and actually solve the problems. It's in doing so that you create wealth and you create money and you create happiness. But we are unable to do that. So we have a bunch of people who are just sitting there only looking for a way. So politics is the way of getting to the table to eat something. It's just the same like when there's a concours for customs, there are 30,000 people who are writing the concours. The same people, when they open the one for gendarme, the same 30,000 people, they are doing the gendarme thing. So people are just running with paperwork looking for something to eat. So what the people you are calling politicians, we are not yet into politics. Like I was telling you, in the next Cameroon, there were only 4 political parties in Cameroon.
Okay, before political parties.
I just, in line with what he was saying there, those political parties, the opposition political parties, saying that they don't include them. This is national unity coming. How many of them have organized something with regards to national unity and called the CPDM, and the CPDM refused to participate?
Okay.
They should become serious. I mean, they should be serious. The opposition is a mess.
I want you to talk about this issue of justice. Does it work in bringing Cameroonians together, or it rather divides and gives some people the impression that justice is for a select few?
Justice is for the high and the mighty.
Okay.
It's not even tribalistic. Because if you walk in Yaoundé, they will tell you, "Tu ne connais pas qui est qui." In other words, it has to do with your rank in the society and the influence you have in the society that determines how you get justice. I have seen people who were guilty taken to a police station because they have people of high status. They were brought out of that police station, and the man who had the right was locked up. I don't know if you have come across that. I've witnessed that not once, not twice, not thrice. Until the guy who was brought outside, but to be frank, I was the one that offended that guy. Just because my elder sister is a magistrate. He called the gendarme officer and the other guy was locked up. So justice is not for those who merit it. Justice is for those who have the influence in the society, who have the control. And that's the reason why we can never and ever, to be sincere, trust the justice system of this country, because it has never, for once, served its purpose. Many people have been unjustly treated in the country by the justice system because they do not have somebody to back them up, neither do they have the necessary amount of money to pay their way through. The justice system in Cameroon is tied to who you know, where you're coming from, your status in the society, and the bank account you have. If not, we go to court these days to fulfill formalities, but those that have the money decide the case.
Yeah, but is it not too sweeping to say never has the justice system, when that justice we have seen, we saw Kawala win a case against another person, against the Minister of Territorial Administration.
He did not win the case against the Minister of Territorial Administration.
She won.
No, she did not win against the Minister of Territorial Administration. She won against the person who claimed to be the head of civil party, Professor Tita.
Backed by who?
What are you backing up or you are going forward?
Who?
Backing up for the she won the case against an ordinary person.
No.
That case could not probably be.
The ministry recognized this Professor Tita. That is why she took it to court.
Yes, the ministry recognized, the recognition was there now. Recognition means what?
Yeah, but if a minister recognizes a person...
Submit a document to the minister, he will sign what has been submitted to him.
One more thing I want to add. One more thing I want to add, Mr. Liu.
Yes.
I will keep emphasizing on the advancement of the private sector in this nation. Our tax system is not fair.
Okay.
They give 1 year exoneration of taxes when you open a new company. A fledgling company that has never even won one job, they are giving him 1 year exoneration of taxes. Once that 1 year pass, you are asked to start declaring your tax.
Okay. We are ending the program at this juncture. Dr. Nick, thank you for coming.
Oh, it's been a pleasure. I think we've been laughing the whole time, but it's time for us to get serious in this nation and start, being responsible and solving problems. We should learn to like work that is well done. Be honest, have self-discipline, pray, because when you pray, God gives you, insight and creative opportunities. Respect the environment, respect each other, respect merit. The nation is really falling apart because we don't respect merit, we don't respect the rules. Watch how we behave on the roads, and you would know whether we are a country that is going to survive or die.
Thank you too for coming, Apostle Ambe.
Thank you, Mr. Leo. It's always a joy to be here. Thank you, Cameroonians, for your contributions, and for all the panelists for the great inspiration today.
We also want to thank you for coming, Stephen.
Yeah, it's a great pleasure to have shared a panel with these great minds. I just want to say that while we pray that peace comes back to the Northwest and Southwest, we are calling on the government to see the issue of dual nationality in this nation. Our diaspora has a lot to offer, and only that law will permit them to repatriate some of the profits they have made out there and build Cameroon for the future.
We are announcing that tomorrow I'm going to have a special guest on Prime, Elizabeth Teke, who is one of the pioneer gospel singers in Cameroon. She's going to be telling us a lot about how she has been able to survive in this industry all these years, and also her works in the ministry of Christ. She's going to tell us a lot about so many things. So take that rendezvous tomorrow, 7 p.m. on My Media Prime. Thank you all for watching, and to you, Desmond and Eli, stay blessed. Bye-bye.